becoming very chaotic, don't you think so? So many land fights, so many history reviews that I hear Mike Huckabee, he wants to read the Bible in public. Somebody published that. If I find more sources, I'm probably going to post that too. That for some reason, Mike Huckabee wants to, like, read the Bible in front of everybody in America. Nothing bad. It's just, I say this all the time, that it's really pointless for people to fight about the scripture, because all those messages that are given in the holy books are historically true. Now, if you look at it, people are just like losing it. And it's once upon a time, Arabs used to judge the Jews like, oh, you guys are Zionists. Today, they are standing in the same position to defend their own homeland, fighting the same exact fight against, Farsis. Some people call them Persia, but some say, oh, they're Farsis, right? And then you have another group, like it's like a whole bunch of nations, and the Russians against Americans, the Russians want the Americans to destroy the American Empire, who want to write their history of early time. And then comes the Spain and things like that. I said all these empires, who wants to live, you got to read about them, because they do have a whole play in what is today. And people are just like, no, we don't want to read. But once it comes in front of them, they start freaking out. Like, how did that happen? It reminds me, I would say, about like a few months ago, before Iran's war started, it was me and one of my colleagues, right? And we said like how Russia is going to help Iran and things like that. There's sources to prove it in Fox News, right? And Zelensky from Ukraine admitted it himself. Now what? Is Zelensky, of all the people who you expect to say something, he did that, oh, Russia is helping Iran supply stuff, and you'll be like, what, for a minute? Like, when did that happen? So it's like a twisteroo how things are happening. Now, people have asked me that where this is going, and I honestly don't know. Yes, the war is going to expand. Recently, I got a question like, what do you think Pakistan is going to do now? Pakistan, and I'm like, well, maybe Iran wanted to know what tactics Pakistan's going to use, because in order to catch a rat, you listen to the rat's plans first. Like, oh, hey, ever heard of high school drama? Like, you listen to the people who you hate, and how do you use the tactics against them? It is just like that how, like, Iran listened to Pakistan, but you're a rat. You're a rat, right? Nobody trusts you anything, you're a rat. So, like, you're listening to the rat. Oh, what plans do you have for me, and things like that. Let me see, your plan, and let me hear it out of your mouth. And that's exactly what Iran's been doing to many nations. So let me hear your plan against me. Oh, come on in. I would love to know everything. And when people ask me, like, what do you think's going to happen? That's exactly what I said. That if Pakistan's going to be involved, Iran's going to be nosy and be like, come right here, buddy. I would love to know the plan that's running in your mind, so spill it out in front of me. And that's exactly what Pakistan did, all thinking like, oh, I'm your friend, I'm here to help you, yada yada, spill out the plan. Actually, but Iran just wants to know the plan. Like, what plan do you have against me? Spill it all out so I can think for a minute, once you leave out of my house, how to retaliate to you. That's basically what's around. Every nation wants to know each nation's plan. They're not going to say to your face, but they're going to think up here. What's 1,000 times 380? I don't know, but that's an interesting question. But I'm here to talk about stuff, because I've been sitting in spaces, and man, it's becoming so chaotic. Some people just want to write their own narratives. They don't care about who is who anymore. Pastors are getting confused. Hadiths, people are rewriting their time. Oh, but the hadith said that pastors are getting confused. And I'm just like, what? Look at them, because nobody reviewed this stuff, It's like people are getting confused where everything is going. I'm referring to narratives. I'm not referring to political views. Political views separate, like all that marketing stuff and oil effect. That is a separate chapter. That is way different. But when you look at narratives, that is completely different. So, like, people are just like all over the place. So Iran, we're back to Iran, right? So Iran is one of those nations who's going to want to know everybody's tactics. When you catch a rat, you get to know the rat's plans. And right now, Turkey has not jumped in. Turkey is like the side player who's watching everything from a distance. Like, okay, because I've seen many Turks say, oh, we need to get everything back from the Arabs. Once upon a time, Turks used to be the slaves of the Arabs. So it's like, a back and forth rotation. Everybody's fighting for their ethnic history come to life, and it's like crazy. Like you be like in the Jews, I said this before to many of my Jewish friends, you know, where this is going, Jews are gonna feel a little bit confused because there's so many narratives and they're stuck in the middle of it. Like, oh, help us for safety, will we be safe? And that technically is a front. Don't get me wrong in this. I'm not trying to bomb Jews, but I want everybody to understand the conflict. So Jews are just like in the middle trying to fight for safety, just like the early empire days. So the anti-Semitism has started for them. Now there's so many ethnic groups who are trying to play this game, like Hindus want to write their history, and they have a history with the Afghans and Balochistan, but then Afghans want to be like, no, we just want the Taliban gone, but some want to be like, no, we want to be friends with this group, we want to write group with these guys. So everybody has like an agenda. Now, this agenda, I was recently reading on Twitter, which I don't say it's true until I see more sources to officially make it true, that Russia wants to help the Taliban. You'd be like, what? Russia wants to help the Taliban for what? But there you go back to time again, that it wants to make the Americans fall, and it does not want Americans to have any power. So Russia helping the Taliban is like rising up the Russian Empire, that, hey, you cannot destroy my power. I dare you to destroy that thing without my power being involved. And that's exactly what the Russians are doing. That trying to make its power evolve without having the Americans to, well, stop it. So it's like a back and forth agenda game, and people are just like confused and still singing religion. No, it's a land nation history into ancient times. Like recently, I think I should make a video about this, then a stream, that I found a history of Babylon and how what Babylon used to be like in ancient Mesopotamia times. It was very beautiful, things like that. I'm thinking to publish that in my videos and you guys can see it. Babylon is in the Bible and is known as Iraq today, you know, and I have reviewed this many times. There's many names that people need to match. What is history today? Were they ever mentioned in the Bible? There's only one name that's the same, and people need to remember that in their heads. Israel's name never changed, but other lands who are countries today, there's something else in the Bible. And you gotta kind of like do a scavenger hunt, use any source you got, internet, Google, ChatGPT, Grok, anything you could possibly find to translate, well, the text, and see that, hey, this is that and this is that in here. That's exactly how I do it. It took me about, like, I would say 2-3 years to really understand the puzzle. I didn't know what I was doing. Guess what I started off with first? Persia. I didn't know Persia is Iran today. I really didn't. I didn't. And I'm like, wait a second. If that's this in this book, then what is it in the society today? It took a lot of 3-4 years for me to figure this out, and then I just dig more and more and more until I started figuring out, okay, there's a lot in here that's not supposed to be. India were colonized by Brits. Now the Israelis hope your 7,000 was worth it. I know I said that before too, that I said this about like in 2024, if anybody's listening to me on my channel, that the paganistic religions, they're going to want their history back. And that's technically starting off with the Hindus, because any Hindu I asked is that they said that we do not worship the Abrahamic religions and we have no interest in fulfilling the Abrahamic religion, which also goes for Judaism, Christianity, Islam. And I said this about like in 2024, that they're going to rewrite their caliphate. And people are like, no, why would they do that? Their religions are gone. Like, it's not gone. It's just they never fought for their caliphate. And now there's a whole bunch of these wars with different caliphates who are trying to make history come to life. Like the Kurds want to wipe out the Persians. And they're like, no, you guys are bad people. This place should be Kurds now. And when people talk about, like, you know, Somaliland, now you think for a minute, Somaliland's not even in the Bible, but it took birth today. But many nations took birth in history. People just don't like to look at, but they're like, that was colonized. Many things were colonized. Many. People just don't know what they are and like how and what it started. People are saying religion and bringing religion in it. Religion's just an excuse. Now, when you talk about like devices or creations, I bet you nobody even reviewed that stuff yet. That's just the stuff that people have stolen, the creations people have warred about. There were wars about creations too. That some ethnic groups or like nations actually stole creations from other people. And we haven't even got to that part yet. Like now, I know Mike Huckabee's like, oh, we should really review the Bible. But to be frankly honest, my Christian friends or Jewish friend, anybody watching me, it's not really going to do anything, but because there's many lands that still need to be reviewed today. There's many ethnic groups who are still fighting for their freedom today. But it reminds me of my Christian friend, what she told me. And I didn't believe her at first. I was in denial. I told her, like, nah, that's not true. Who believes in that shit? She's like, there's many ethnic groups who are still in slavery. I'm like, who could possibly that be? Who could possibly be in slavery? Who cares? That's not true. She's like, it is. I'm like, it's not. It's not true, is it? But when I got deeper and deeper and deeper look into nations and their problems with certain ethnic groups, monitors certain groups and their behavior, like, okay, maybe she was not kidding. There is such thing as slavery in many ethnic groups who are still wanting to be free in society today of the world, like the Kurds, the Kashmiri people, Africans also lived under slavery for many years. So there's still all these other ethnic groups who do not want to be lived under anybody's rule, and they want to live under, well, their own rules, and that has not happened in society again today. I guarantee that, like some of the Hindus today, they want to write their caliphate without being under the Abrahamic religion symbols. Just bring back their own caliphate in the early days of the pagans. And because I've been sitting in spaces, monitoring, and I actually was invited too, but I had to take care of my daughter. I was invited to a Hindu space, like, oh, come on, say something, because the Hindu anti-Semitism is growing just because Hindu says something different, and it's growing in America. But I said that in 2024 too, there's going to be a lot of people who are not going to agree with Hindus due to certain stuff, because those certain stuff are part of their religion, but not the Abrahamic symbol religions, you know? And that's exactly what's happening today. Hindus being are outnumbered, they're being bullied, and nobody's listening to them. So when it comes to Modi, 90% Modi chooses what's best for him, whether it's left or right, even though I know some people don't agree with me, but I'm just using that as an example because he's a Hindu. And I know a lot of the Hindu hate's increased in America. I don't know what to say about that, but I reviewed this information in 2024 due to why it's going to grow. It is due to certain situations and certain views that they have. And that's not what we could say anything about. Everybody has their own personal views. Who am I to tell them, like, oh, no, you can't have it. Oh, no, you can't have it. So, like, people have asked me, literally, like, where are we going in this conflict? And I'm like, the conflict is just about to begin. It's going to get deeper. People are going to have a lot of questions. People are going to have a lot of reconsideration what they ever thought about, because people have been told many false things. I'm saying it. I'm not referring to one thing. Many false things in history. In fact, you remember a content creator named Andy, right? I believe he's like a Israeli Christian pastor, I think. I don't know his last name. I forgot. The guy with the beard and like glasses. He has like big things, right? So he stated that the entire world's war is against like Islam. It's not Ishmael or Isaac. It's Jerusalem against Islam. And you think for a minute, if that narrative is true, why the heck did NATO and other Christian countries are not supporting America, right? Think for a minute. Get your glasses on, your thinking capping on. Poor President Trump is asking for support, but no Christian country is ready to help him, like UK or Australia or like all these other countries. And NATO just recently said no, that we're not going to participate either. So if that narrative's true, why is this happening? Why is this happening that everybody's saying no, that we're not going to help you fight? You can fight alone, and that's technically happening. And there's many narratives like that whether it's that mosque or that church, anything, there's many narratives that are going to take a punch from this war. And I said this in 2024, that people just don't see it yet. People are going to see it when the pictures rise to light. And it is rising to the light. In fact, I've noticed on Twitter, many people are just like, but how are the Arabs helping Jews? How are the Arabs helping Jews? Like, Arabs, I said that too, that the Arabs are also going to take a punch. Everything that they ever believed in. They're going to have to believe in this relationship written in the Bible, Ishmael's Isaac's relationship, because in order to survive Persia, as in Iran, and the Ayatollahs attack them, they will have no choice but to turn to them. Because everything they ever believed in, Ayatollah destroyed that by attacking them. And that changed their views. Like, how did that happen? How did that happen? And I said this in the future, before October 7th even started. I said this, that there's going to be a future Shia Sunni war. People just don't see it, how it's going to develop, where it's going to come from, but it's going to come. And it did. And now there's like so many divides of ethnic groups, faiths, that people don't know which path to follow. So much land grab fights, many land grab fights. It's not just one anymore. There's many. Turks are watching from the sideline. Russia's playing a key player from the top. So it's like all these land grab wars against the Americans. And Americans are being the good guys, like, okay, we will try to get everything solved. Things like that. We'll try to make it work by taking the Arabs, by taking the Jewish state, everybody into one war. Well, there's all the other different nations who are part of one thing. Hey, Christianity, Islam, all these other nations are spread in the, not just Middle East, but spread in the East and the North, the South. It's spread everywhere. Why is it just the West? The West is fighting for itself right now, if you really look at it. And that's where the early empire history comes in. Is that, okay, wait a minute. When did this come to your end? When did this come to your end? It was already there. But now if you look, none of those people are ready to help the Americans fight. Nobody. Why? Nobody's ready to help the Americans fight for this land war. And now people are like debating like, oh, the Iran needs to give take back UAE. That's creating a fire that, oh, Iran needs to take back UAE. But Bahrain stepped in there too. But no, Bahrain was through a trade. You get to have that. So all these weird land grab. And Russia's fighting for Afghanistan, that no, the Americans cannot have that. That's part of our territory, and we're going to rebuild you up, make you more powerful so Americans cannot destroy you. You think for a minute, where's all this coming from, and where does your relationship come from? That's why I told like people, like, don't believe what you see. Look up countries. Look up countries and their fight. How far back do they go, and where does it come from? You read about it, you will understand why this fight comes today. Today, people are looking at another angle. I don't know what to say about that. Now, when I publish stuff, people are just like, okay, now wait a minute. When did this happen? Did you go in the exact order? No, nobody likes to do any of that. And it's sad because it's importance. If you go in the exact order, what changed, what not changed, there's many groups who are still taking the punches today. Name a couple of groups that are still not taking the punches today. There's like many. Nobody wants to trust the Palestinians. Nobody's making room for the Kurds. I would say Somaliland is probably the luckiest land in this history that it got to be a self-independent state. Otherwise, there's many nations like that. Balochistan wants a place. Balochis want to be free. There's many nations like that still today. And ethnic groups to those nations who are praying, will they ever get independence? Otherwise, they've been locked up for centuries and centuries and centuries. And in this land grab, everybody's just now rotating back and forth. I don't have like a Christian person on my channel, or I would probably educate what role does Cuba play. Cuba would be Catholics. And some say like, oh, destroying Cuba, we should. But I say this too, okay, destroying is no problem. You can destroy someone's house tomorrow and be stupid and go to jail for it. Destroying is not the problem. It's the side effect. And people are like, what type of side effect would that be? I'm like, well, if it's a Catholic country, it's going to affect some Catholics. Not all of them, some of them. And people are like, how's that possible? It is, because if it's a Catholicism nation, that's a rise of million different Catholics all over the world, seeing a view different that, okay, why are our people getting killed all over the world? What's the deal with Catholics getting destroyed? And some people said stuff about Protestants, that Protestants are going to support the death of Catholics. Now, how crazy is that? Now, that sounds like, gee, I didn't know a Shia versus Sunni war that the Muslims are facing right now. Protestants versus the Catholics. That's like Shia versus Sunni. That some people say that no, the Shia Muslims are not the real Muslims. They're not in the holy books. They're not really in anything. So these conflicts that are happening, you just got to study the past. And not a lot of people are like digging, because if you don't, you are not going to understand what is meant to come ahead. And understand what is meant to come again, there's going to be many things. One thing I can guarantee say about the conflict is that I said this to many of my Christian friends, that the Christian nations are going to step in, but they're going to step in to stop America. How crazy is that? And she was like, how is that possible? No, they wouldn't. Yes, we are a superpower. We're very, very powerful. No kidding. America's the most powerful country in the world. No doubt about that. Everybody's proud, which is why people trust it so much. However, when it comes to wars like this and getting in the way of other territories, you can possibly say there's going to be other nations that are going to be in denial versus America. And I know people don't believe me on this. It hasn't happened yet, but it is. It is. Once upon a time, many nations spoke against each other, stopping wars. So like, for example, recently, the French, right? Remember the French? Everybody remember the French when the scenery started in Lebanon, right? Remember stuff started going in Lebanon? Guess who spoke out? The French. Like, oh, you can't have that. I prevent anybody attacking Lebanon, and we prevent you to stop at the French president, even though French is a different type of Christians, but Christians. A lot of chaotic things. Now the question is whose war is going to achieve and whose war is not going to achieve. And that's why people are like looking at their Bible, looking at their holy books, looking at a whole bunch of things. But honestly, I just say one answer, that there really is no point, because in the end, you can try and try and try and try like a moron. Last ending is, because that's what God is for, writes the ending. God writes the ending to every nation. And I just sit there and monitor groups who like, oh, wait a minute, you're the bad guy. Wait a minute, you're the bad guy. Or wait a minute, you guys are the Zionists. You guys are the, oh, Kurds don't deserve to live. You freaking this, that, saying it to the Persians, like Persian and the Kurds fighting each other. There's many ethnic groups like that, guys. Many. And it's not going to solve anything. There's going to be many land grab battles, and I must say history is going to take a turn, somewhat repeat itself. So like, for example, if you were to write a book, right, from October 7th till now, if you were to publish a book and knowing that stuff is not over yet, what would you say in your storybook? That's how I like to educate people. Like, if you were to publish a book from October 7th till now, what details would you give in your storybook? Would you, other than the people who died, those are details. But specifically, if you were to give your book a specific name in society today, and you were to educate kids history in tomorrow's school districts, which some education system is actually getting changed, you know that, right? America is going to change its education system, minus some education. Nobody understands why. I was reading how the Holocaust was going to get terminated. Holocaust goes back to the early days of the 1990s. And when Hitler was involved, some countries say they're not going to keep the Holocaust anymore. So like, this is what I'm saying. Like, if you were to publish a book, what would you say in your book? From October 7th till now, what history conflicts would you add in your book? There's so much going on, and you don't know where to begin. And America's pulled into all of it. All of it, America's trying to make sure the war does not go too far, like 2-3 years. That's not the goal, and that's definitely not the case. Maybe like 1 or 2 months, but definitely not to one or 2 years. That's too much for the Americans. But if you were to publish a book and you were to educate people like, hey, started with October 7th, and this happened after 2 years of October 7th, what details would you add in your book? Okay, we went into a war with Iran, and how far did we expand? How far are we taking it? Who are we gonna crash into this war? You know, these are the things that matter. These are the things that matter in like storybooks, you know? And right now there's so much going on that when people ask me questions, if I were to stream about it, there's just too much. Too much. Right now there's gonna be war about oil, expansion of land. I know people have specific requests with Americas, like America, can you help us free that group or that group or that group? But that's not the Americans' job. America can't go that far. Even though some people are dragging the Americans to, like, you know, help us gain independence. I would say in American history, this is the highest risk in history that America has ever taken. Broke all boundaries and decided to war Iran. Without any invitation, it just said, okay, it's time. War, they hold their Bible, started setting prayers on their Bible, and kaboom, they went to war. Now, I've been saying this forever. Now, what's going to happen after, depending who's behind Iran, even though some people are not ready to hear me yet, some people are learning the slow way and the hard way, that yes, words from Zelensky, that Russia is going to support Iran. And Zelensky recently had a meeting with Saudi Arabia. Now, think about it. If you're America and you're literally trying to stop Russia and Ukraine's war, but you shake hands with Saudi Arabia, Zelensky did, and Iran's watching, like, what are you doing with my arrival? Like, why are you shaking hands with the guy who I'm in a war with? But Saudi Arabia did that. Is Iran in a war with Saudi Arabia? Yes, it is. So Zelensky goes down there like, oh, shake hand with me. I'll protect you. So that's kind of like lighting like a box of fire. Fire. Like, how dare you shake hands with that nation that I'm in a war with? Now that's just going to make the Russians more closer to Iran. More. Like, okay, how dare you betray me? And Zelensky, you shake hands with the Arab states, and like, you want me to stop warring, but you shake hands with the Arab states. So this conflict, I say this all the time, and people are not really understanding it. There's going to be a lot of surprises from this conflict. People are just not ready to handle it. Other than the oil, other than the marketing, that's just basic stuff for country survival. That's country survival, okay? That's American survival. Hey, we need oil. This is how it's going to affect our marketing. This is how it's going to affect our economy. That's survival, okay? That's not narrative. We are talking about narratives, okay? Narratives are not marketing. Narratives have nothing to do with oil. Narrative is a narrative. People educate it, people preach it in churches, people preach it everywhere, okay? We are talking about narratives. Now, if you tell a 7 to 8 year old that, okay, this country is going to attack us tomorrow because some script says so, right? That's what people sing on hadiths for. Some script says so. Today, I can name a hadith that a lot of the people did not know how to respond to me. I published articles, I published sources, and when I published in front of the hadith, like the teachers in the early days, Muslims were shut up after that. They didn't know how to respond to me. I'm like, how come this says, like, you know, these people were Arabs and Jews who you hate so much, but you literally are saying that, oh, we need to fight them, but your own scripture says that your own ancient times were the people of Arab and Jews, and those are the people you want to kill? How does that make any sense? Same now, so they go blank. Same now. Even now, if you were to show kids narratives, like, okay, this country is going to attack you tomorrow because a pastor says so, or a scripture says so, or a hadith says so. But when something else happens, the kid's going to feel confused. Like, okay, that didn't happen, but that country did it. Why is that? That's not in the paper. Why did that country attack it? That's not in the paper. Well, a lot of that is going to happen through this war. People said Israelis have said it many times, that Turkey's going to do something. Turkey's going to do something. Turkey's not going to do anything yet. Turkey's watching from a distance. And when closer Arabs and Jews come together due to different reasons of the war, that's when nations are going to have an issue. And you're going to open up a new box of worms, new box of history, because once upon a time, the Turks used to be slaves of the Arabs. Now, what do you know? Are they going to take land? You don't know. Are they going to get involved? You don't know. Are they linked to NATO? Yes, they are. They're linked to a lot of things. And there's many nations like that even right now, even though NATO kind of backed out from America, that I'm not going to help you. Get out of here. Get out of my face. I'm not going to help you anymore. And there's many nations like that. Oh, get out of here, America. I'm not going to help you anymore. You can fight your own war. And President Trump, unfortunately, like, oh man, nobody wants to help me except Israel and the Arabs and all these places. So that has an impact, guys. People just don't see it yet. People don't understand it yet. Because if you put symbols together, right now, I said this to my friend 2 years from now, that these symbols are going to eventually come together. And I'll demonstrate how, okay? Arabs for Islam, America for Christianity, Israel for Judaism. Those are the Abrahamic symbols against the world in war currently. Okay? That's happening. Nobody can say it's not happening. It is happening. People are just having a difficult time understanding. Arabs for Islam, America for Christianity, Israel for Judaism. Put those symbols together against the world. Is the world turning against the symbols? Yes, they are. Yes, they are. There's many nations that are against these countries at the moment. Like Malaysia is like a country, but it doesn't want to support the Arabs. Turkey is a country, it doesn't want to support the Arabs. Then we look at Christianity, Australia and Britain, they don't want to support America. And there's only one Jewish country, so you can't say much about that. There literally only is one Jewish country. So all these nations are against these nations of the world, like, hey, you know, we don't want to support you anything, you can do your war alone. But that's where I say that when people ask me, like, why don't they want to support their own like, you know, other countries or support this country, I'm like, you got to read about the past. In the early days, if you read the past, there were many, like, you know, Christian empires that's linked to the French, the Britain, Spain, all these places who once upon a time had power just like the Americans have power. But today they do not have power. The Americans have power, who came after all the Ottomans, pretty much everything. Today the Americans have power. All the Arab countries and things, they were part of the Brits and things like that under slavery. People got to read documents. And like I say this all the time, that everything is a puzzle piece. You have to put the puzzle pieces together. You have to put it together from that corner, from that corner, from down corner, from the middle corner. Put everything pieces together to understand the war. If you're not going to put the pieces together, you are not going to understand anything that's going on in the globe. And that's how I look at people today. And it's sad. It's unfortunately true. And those who still don't see it yet, they're going to see it much later. Now, whenever I ask people, like, so you tell me, how far exactly are we going in this war? Any guess? And people are like, I don't know, the war's still going to continue. I don't know, the war's still going to continue. I'm like, okay, no problem. Do you know how far are we going? They don't know. They don't know. And that's why I say, from October 7th till now, if you were to write a book, what would you publish in your book other than October 7th? Other than what Hamas did? There's a lot more that has happened as of now than just Hamas anymore. It's not Hamas anymore. A lot have happened. The genocide of the Iranians, then the back and forth fight, the historical change of who's and whose side. It's Arabs against the Farsis, while changing the regime. And recently, I'm not sure if anybody saw, the Afghans are fighting too. Afghans want a regime change. So how many regimes are we going to change, guys? Regime change and land grab. It's a lot of it around, don't you think so? Afghans want a regime change. IRGC want a regime change. Venezuela wanted a regime change. All these regimes of the globe. And they're relying on America. If you were to write a book, I say this again, what would you say from your perspective? Would you miss God? Does anybody remember God? I say this to my people all the time. It's a good time to remember his rules, because a lot of stuff that you never pictured, it is going to come to life. And it's currently happening. So, like, seriously, guys, I say it. If you have, like, history, it is going to come useful to you. If you have sources to look in, because trust me, the internet, it's not going to have the sources that you see currently. The internet is going to change in the next few years. The stuff that you find now, I would say about like 10 years from now. Let's say 10 years, 10 to 15 years. The stuff that you find now, you are not going to find it in the next 15 years. It's not going to be on the internet anymore, because people are going to bury it. People are going to try to hide it from you. People are going to try to see if you can't find it. I've noticed YouTube, right? Even though I come here to see my subscribers and talk to them during this time, and I feel it's like the right time to talk to them. A lot of stuff YouTube has minused. A lot of stuff that I found in like 2023, I can't find it anymore. And this stuff has terminated in front of my eyes. Like, I wanted to post when Robert Stern went to Israel And I wanted to see his documentary that he gave in Israel back in 2024 in the Western Wall. Now, when I look at some of the videos regarding him, I can't find it. I can't find it. It makes me ask 1,000 questions that why is this stuff being suspended? So imagine 10 years from now, how much history is going to be suspended? How much? How much do you want to gamble that many history is going to be suspended? It is. It's going to be suspended. Your stuff that you find now, you're not going to find it in the next 10 years. And how people say like, oh, you know, we want our history to exist in the best way. Something that my friend said a long time ago, and I believe her. She said, if you have old books, never throw them out. And I asked her why. I mean, it's old, right? And I never understood what she meant by that when she's like 60-year-old Christian. And someone Jewish said that too. She's like, if you have old stuff, never throw it away. And I'm like, why? Today I understand why, because 90% anything related to olden days history, like a Holocaust book, right? Try buying a Holocaust book off of Amazon. I bet you it's gonna be there, but a good amount of money. Old history is not easy to find. I decided that maybe today I'm gonna post my first video. If you guys are gonna enjoy it, it's from YouTube published it, and it was very hard for me to find. It's related to Babylon, in the early days of Babylon, what it used to be. And I think it's important today because Iraq is also going through a war. What was it called in the early days? In the Bible, in Iraq was Babylon. And it showed all the ancient times of Babylon, what the land was like before it became Iraq. There's many nations like that who transform into country today, but they were named something else in the Bible. And I feel in order to get through this, I'm going to post those nations one by one, what they're called in the Bible and what they are called in history today. I think the only way we can get through this if we match the pieces together. The only name that has never changed, obviously I said this before, I'll say it again, was Israel's name, but there were other countries who are named in the book and they're named something else today. Even America, you know, I didn't look up America. I even forgot what it was called. My friend was a Christian, she looked up America and she looked it up, what was it called in the Bible, and I'm like, what? America didn't exist till the Ottoman Empire. She's like, it didn't, but the land was here. She's like, what was the land called? I'm like, I don't know. She's like, look it up in the book. What was the land called? And I forgot what it's called, but it's in there. So every land, it was a land, but it's a country today. I mean, what is country built on? A land. So if you match the text, you will understand where do all these words come from, since when they were developed, and why is there such a divide. And people are not seeing to understand the divide. There's a major divide. And that requires reading from past and after. There's a serious divide in the groups. And people are not understanding that. Where is the divide coming from? Why is this divide? And I gave people an example. You understand the divide, you will understand why people are not connected. I don't mean why like Jews or Hindus hate Muslims. I don't mean that type of a divide. I mean a divide like why are people against each other? There's Jews on this side and there's Jews on this side. There's Muslims on this side, there's Muslims on this side. There's Christians on this side, there's Christians on this side. And they're all against each other due to views, visions, narratives, decisions. And that's what this is about. And until you do not understand this divide, you are not going to understand the war itself. Because I've seen Hindus debate me, right? That doesn't mean I hate Hindus, right? Patty, how are we going to colonize by the Israelis? Wait, let me see what you wrote. Let me check my big screen. Who wrote me that? Let's see your question. Shpati, how are we colonized by Israelis? Where'd that come from? That's not the question. Where did that question come from? That's not the question. That has nothing to do with colonization. The only thing that has to do with colonization is nations against each other. You're not the one against them. You, as Hindus, I said this before, you have a separate narrative away from the world. Your major goal is how to make it come true, basically. Who wrote me what? Indians were colonized. Oh, it's to this person. So like, people need to understand the divide. If you're not going to read about the divide, you're not going to understand any of these things. Because I seen Jews, right? I seen Persian Jews not get along with Kurdish Jews. And some people are like, there's no such thing as a Kurdish Jew. And I'm a Muslim, what am I supposed to say? I know there's such thing as an Arab Muslim, but people are like, there's no such thing as a Kurdish Jew. It can't be. It can only be a Persian Jew. And they're like, yes, we are Kurdish Jews. How do you do? We are not from the Persian bloodline. And people just like debate each other, but there's no such thing as a Persian Jew. And I just like sit there and laugh and laugh and laugh. I'm like, what gives, guys? That means people are not reading enough. You need to read more and more and more. Like, where does all this come from? Like, for example, I had a scenery conflict recently on Twitter where I had to defend a Jew, and not just Christians. I am friends with Christians too. Like, this girl, right? This happened to a famous content creator named Nima Yemeni. You guys probably heard of him. So he is an Iranian Jew, and he also has Indian bloodline, and he married a non-Jew, right? Now, the female did the same thing. She's a British Jew. She married a non-Jew. So, like, people are like, oh, you're a Muslim now just because she dated or liked a Muslim, right? But there's many people like that. Now, for example, I'll give the biggest example of the day that all of Indian Jews moved to Israel, and Indian Jews who are been there before the birth of Christianity, those Indian Jews are going to keep their culture. They're never going to terminate their culture and pretty much say like, okay, I'm terminating the Indian culture forever, and I'm going to officially become the Israeli Jew permanently and delete my identity from the Indian culture. Nobody does that. Nobody does that. And then if you don't follow, then it's things like, oh, you're not a Jew, or you're not a Christian, you're not a Muslim. But that is the globe, guys. The globe's made with different cultures. Every country has a different culture. There's Christians from many different cultures. There's Jews from different cultures, and Muslims from different cultures. I mean, hey, I seen in local America where my friend, he would literally tell me, hey, I'm not an Israeli Jew, I'm a pure American Jew. I support Israel, yes I do, but I'm a pure American Jew first. And there's people from all over the world who come from different cultures. That doesn't mean there's no such thing as different Christians, no such thing as different Jews, no such thing as different Muslims. Of course it is, because that is the globe all over the world. The clothes that I wear, they're not going to wear. The clothes that they wore, I never tasted them. It's like that. And every country is like that. So when they come to your home, it's like saying that you are telling them to get rid of their first identity where they lived all their life before they moved into your house. You get what I'm saying? So it has an impact. And I've seen people get affected before. And I know I told my Jewish friend that, like, let me ask you something. And he told me a very accurate answer. Like, Muslims are used to debating each other. It's not a new thing. But why do Jews feel so sensitive? Like, if one of their own gets rejected, like if Jews says, oh, you're not a Jew anymore, Jews get really emotional. Like, no, it's not true. And they start crying. Like, Muslims feel confused because we are used to it. I'm not sure for Christians. But, like, we're used to it. And we're like, it's okay, brother. We deal with this shit all the time. But, like, no, our own hurt us. How could they say stuff to us? Like, it just hurts them to the every inch. But there we go, over and over again. You gotta stop looking at the globe in one angle, because if you're gonna look at the globe with one angle, then people are gonna look at you with one angle, and they're not gonna accept your differences. Like when Jews say that, no, but I am a Jew, but I'm from a different heritage or culture. And they're like, oh, you're not a Jew. So if it's either my way or highway, that's what makes you Jewish, then you're not a Jew anymore. That's what Muslims say to each other literally all the time. Like, bro, they get along, but they do not accept their differences. And you need to accept people's differences because the globe is made in a different format. There's going to be Jews who are going to be linked to different cultures. And Hindu's culture comes from one heritage. It never changed because of India and early lands of India. So all this stuff counts. And until people understand this, they're not going to understand anything. It's people like today in America, when I see people like, curse people out. You know what's weird is that My Christian friend told me that the white people are gonna fight, and I don't really talk about this because I don't feel comfortable. But like when I see people hate each other and say go back to their lands, but they don't even know their own land history, it's just a shame. It's a very a shame. I'm sorry. Because like in the end, there were many colonial wars, not one. Many, many. And you learn from the Brits, you learn from the French, you learn from Spain, you learn from the Arab Empire and all these different empires in ancient times that's linked to the holy books. That teaches you where does this stuff come from. And that's just half, okay? I haven't even reviewed like the creations, when people actually had creations and when there were wars regarding creations. And there were many wars regarding creations. And someone Jewish told me that. You're talking about 1% of the angle. There were many wars regarding creations, stuff that people warred at that I own this now. This is mine now. I stole it, however, whatever. I want to rule this device or I want to rule this power. The Phoenicians did that. I never published that. The Phoenicians did that they stole a creation that belonged to someone else and they warred for it, that who gets to rule the creation. This is the stuff that people should be reviewing, because until you review all these, every single bit of details, you are not going to understand more problems of the globe. And there's so much to come ahead. There's oil, whose worth of a dollar is going to rule, whose worth of an economy is going to rule. All these stuff are going to rise with time, and they're going to compete with the Americans. And of course, Americans gain more and more power. Their land gains more and more power. Yeah, more power Americans gain. You're going to say there's going to be more enemies for America. So I hope I explained this very openly, because there's more to come. And by the way, yes, I realized that on Twitter, if you open a space, I can share the screen. And then for me to use Discord, I can just use Twitter. And you guys can watch my podcast on Twitter. I haven't done anything yet because I'm still waiting more information regarding the war. And it's on hold till April the 6th, I believe. After April the 6th, then Trump's going to give a second announcement what's the next process of the war. Right now, there's Passover coming and holidays coming, so we are on a hold, and we are waiting for more information. And if I have Americans on my channel, I want you to pray for the best. Every choices we make has a cause, has a reflect. A lot of downfalls too, but hey, we're going to get through this together, and we need to hope for what is the best. And we need to get through it together, all of us, whether you're Hindu on my channel, Jew, whatever, American or other people on my channel from different countries. We need to have patience and hold on to this. Debating people is not going to solve our problem. This is how history is made. There were many type of wars, many type of shits. Debating people is not going to solve your problem. However, getting through it, finding the cure, just like how some people say, oh, destroy Hamas, destroy the Taliban, destroy this, that, get it over with so no more problems. Or some Americans are saying like, okay, look, Afghanistan has all these American stuff, just destroy it so they don't harass Americans anymore. That's like, okay, we are free from the chain. You guys no longer have our stuff. You can't harass us anymore. There's going to be more conflicts like that because other countries are linked and people just don't see it yet. So best I can say is keep your eyes open. Pray for America, and stay tuned, you all. Any other questions that you guys have on my stream? And I know there's a lot of shit that's meant to come, but you guys need to make yourself prepared. Any questions before I go? Thought I reviewed this, that there's narratives all over the world, guys. There's many narratives to pop open. Whose narrative is going to come true? We don't know. Some people say that the Kurds are going to get their own state. Some people say, oh, gee, Balochis are going to get independence. There's all these narratives. But we don't know. It's just a myth right now. Is it going to come true other than Somaliland? We don't know. And we're going to find out with time. Alright guys, I hope you understood my message in my stream today, and I'm going to try to upload my first video regarding Babylon. I found a good documentary that is good during this time. I haven't got updates from me going to Poland just yet. If I go to Poland, you're guys gonna watch me stream all over Poland like I did in Israel. My Poland trip is on hold due to the war. Yeah, but I hope you like my first video that I'm gonna put up, because like I said, I don't know what videos to put up. Mine is the personal content. I talk about everything on here. but I feel a Babylon video is worth it right now. And I think slowly I'm going to put up videos like what were stuff labeled in the Bible and what are they are in today's history and how do they have an impact. I think that's the best content videos I can think of at the time as of right now. So guys, I hope you all understand, and I'm going to get ready to end this stream and make yourself prepared for what's ahead. Stay tuned, y'all. Take care. Bye.